This shit hard.
How are you?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
That's
a little tired, but I'm all right. I think I'm getting a second wind.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all?
Yes.
Well, I am so glad that you are on the 90-Day Podcast Show. And
Okay.
hi, I am Crystal Rene. And welcome. And Lucinda, what caught my eye is your Facebook post, and that is what this title is for our interview.
Okay.
Dismantling Racism in Nursing. And before we get into it, I want to ask, how long have you been in the field of nursing?
Wow. I was in nursing for, it's going to sound crazy, for 30 years. I probably was about 5 or 6 when I started. No, I'm only kidding. But it's been 30 years. 30 years that I graduated from nursing school. And then I want to say 25 or 26 years that I've been a midwife. So it's been a long time.
Now, was your mother, or anyone in your family, any past generations, were there anyone in your family nurses before you?
No, not at all. I was the first in my immediate family to go to school for nursing. I was really pretty much the first, like I'm a first generation college student.
Okay.
I know, like I had, like my mom had cousins who were like in law, but not really nursing.
Oh, okay. Because you've been in that field for so long, and I thought maybe it was a history of generation going back to my mom was a nurse and her mom was a nurse.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. No. No, yeah. Some people have that history, or they have like midwives. Long history of midwives. Yes. But for me, I think it was just really seeing a lot of diabetes. My family, like all my mother's brothers and sisters, I think except for a few of them had diabetes. And I remember just my grandfather, like getting shots. He was in Atlanta. And I remember when we would go visit, just seeing shots and, just hearing about, seeing that and learning about diabetes.
Yeah.
Not really understanding.
Yeah.
So it kind of gave me like an interest in it.
Yeah. And at my age, speaking of diabetes, and I know I sent you an itinerary of a list of questions, and trust me, I'm trying to really stay focused because I know you're so tired.
Okay.
But
no, that's okay. That's okay. I have time.
You're tapping on to topics like diabetes, because I've been thinking about diabetes personally for myself, because I have been eating a lot of sweets lately, and I'm at the age where I'm 51 years old, and I can't eat sweets like that, and I found myself on a trend. And I did an episode a while back and about me not eating so much sweets, and I'm telling you, I had to really stop it. And when you talked about diabetes, that is something serious, especially in the Black community. So thank you for making even me aware of it, and for even bringing up that topic again.
Yeah, because it's so important, especially once you get over 50. It's like everything catches up with you.
Yeah.
Everything, it's not like your body could handle that sugar earlier, younger.
Yeah.
But now it's like your body doesn't handle it the same.
And you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
What is it about nursing that you love?
That's such a good question because I realize how much I do love nursing. Like I can't even see myself doing anything else. If somebody came right now and took away my license, I wouldn't know what to do with myself.
Wow.
I just feel like I fell into like the right profession. I feel like things kind of happened, I would say almost naturally, because even with nursing, I didn't even think it was something possible until maybe I was like a sophomore in high school. And then I started looking at I love math, I like science. And so, not like I was overly excited about science, but I love some math. But anyways, it started to look real when I, was getting ready to look into schools. And then I just feel like things just fell into place. But I love nursing because I just love being able to provide a service. I love being able to, someone who's afraid, making them feel at ease. Or someone who's confused about something and they're really worried, their family's worried, and then just talking to them and then they start to understand.
Yeah.
And if it's something, they can, like with diabetes, if it's something that they can do something and take control over, because sometimes we don't feel like we have control over our health. We just feel like, I'm going to get diabetes anyways. I'm going to have high blood pressure anyways because everybody's stressing me. But people don't realize the power that they have in caring for themselves. And it's never too late.
Yeah.
So I just love that piece. But I realized, I learned how to provide nursing care before I even learned what it was to be a woman. What it was to pay your own bills. I'm helping other people. So it was like, I kind of feel like I grew up with nursing and with my own life and became like an adult.
Yeah.
With both.
Yeah. Now, are there things about nursing that needs to be changed?
Yes. Yeah. Oh God, there's so much that needs to be changed. One, we need diversity. We need to have people go in any setting and see someone who looks like them. Doesn't have to be the whole staff looks like them. Not to say that would be anything bad. But to come in and you see, there's someone at the front desk. They look like me. The nurse who's taking my blood pressure looks like me. My doctor looks like me. It's just having someone in your pathway that you can see, that looks like you, that there's comfort, someone who knows your culture and know what you've been, who knows how to talk to you. Someone who knows, like, there's certain words that you don't say to someone if they're Black or if they're Puerto Rican. If they're Mexican, you're careful in how you present yourself. And a lot of times those are people who come from your own community that can do that. So the diversity is needed, and we need healthcare practitioners because it's predominantly white. It's like 80% of nurses are white. Mm-hmm. If you're looking at those teaching us, the numbers are even higher. It's like 90% are white. Mm-hmm. So if you're someone who's thinking about nursing and you don't see anyone that looks like you, and you're like, but I want to be a nurse anyways, you constantly feel like you're in a space where you don't belong, even though you could outperform people who so-called look like a nurse. So I know as far as nursing, we have to dismantle that. And a lot of people say, we don't need people of color, it's okay. If everyone's white, they'll still take good care of you. But the reality, if you look at our statistics, people of color are the ones who are most harmed. And when they go in for care, things that could be treated, they don't always make it out. Mm-hmm. Or when they're vulnerable, you go in, you don't always have someone who can treat and talk to you with respect. You go in, you have a headache, and they're talking to you like you're seeking drugs, and then you have a stroke. Right. Or you're pregnant, you have a headache, and now you might have what we call pregnancy-induced hypertension or preeclampsia, which is a very serious condition. But saying sometimes when there's a disconnect, especially because we're so focused on race, we just look at people's skin color and we know everything about them. Right. And it's not really like that with any other group. I always feel like when you're a person of color, you go in a space, it's like you have to start at the bottom and then you work your way up to show people what you know. They automatically assume they know where you come from, that you probably don't have both parents in the home or she's poor. And when you take that into healthcare, because I don't care if you don't know me, I don't care how you feel about me as a Black woman, but when I come in to get my health care, you better respect me as a Black woman. Right. And listen to me and listen to my concerns.
Right.
Because if they don't, they could go home with their families, and I'm the one who's suffering. And I'm leaving the hospital. If I leave the hospital, not knowing what even happened to me.
Right.
So we really need diversity, and the only way we're going to get there is if we address racism, because that's the root of all the problems that we're seeing. All the problems. You can't escape it.
Wow. Now, I don't want people to get confused, because I know when I walk into like a lot of hospitals or urgent care nowadays, I see like African American or Jamaican women, but they might be like CNAs or so I don't want people to get confused where we're not talking about CNAs, we're actually talking about nurses. So
yes.
Right. So we're not we're not talking.
All yes. But we all provide health care. But something also, and if someone does want to be a nurse's aide or LPN, and that's their choice, I think that's a beautiful thing, because we're all needed. When it comes to nursing, and I'll even share my own experience, when it comes to nursing and you do see someone who's, Black, they could be Jamaican, African American, but when they go to present that they want to go into nursing, they're treated like, oh, why don't you just do this? I don't know if you have what it takes to be a nurse. So sometimes it starts even before we enter a nursing program. So we're coming in, we're excited about it. That's what we want to do. And then we're met with resistance. Oh. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being an LPN. There's nothing wrong with being even a registered nurse with an associate's degree. But for someone to tell you, get an associate degree because you can't do a bachelor's, or you can't get a master's or even a doctorate degree, that's where the problems come in for me. And that's what I see a lot.
Right.
Even when people enter nursing programs, how they're made to feel like they can't make it. So, and I'll even just share my own experience. When I was in high school, and I went to Windsor High School here in Connecticut, I ended up applying to some schools for I knew nursing was going to be my major. And I applied to Capital Community College. I applied to UConn. Harvard College for Women was a college that was like a junior college. And I think there were a few other schools that I applied to. And so I submitted my applications, which I'm glad I did. But then my guidance counselor said they had money to cover your application fees. So anyway, they said they would cover my application fees. And so anyways, when I went there, he said, oh, don't worry, we'll pay for it. I can get reimbursed or whatever they were going to do at the time. I can't remember the details. But he looked at the list and he's like, oh, I don't think any of these schools are going to accept you. And I wasn't a poor student. I think I was a decent student. I wasn't like honor roll #1 in my class. But I felt like I was a decent student and I was able to show I could do college work. But he goes, but maybe Capital Community College, they'll probably be the only ones to accept you. And so I left, I was devastated. I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to go to college. If Capital doesn't take me, I'm not going to go anywhere. It was miserable. But then all the schools accepted me except for Capital.
Wow.
Capital put me on their waiting list. I didn't hear from Capital until 2 years later, because I ended up going to Harvard College for Women, and I transferred to Columbia University. So when I transferred, then they had the nerve to send me a letter saying, welcome, you're in this class. But I'm just like, if I would have listened to him, what would I have done for 2 years?
Right.
So that's why I feel like, when I say I feel like things fall into place, because I just feel like God was just looking out for me.
Right.
Because if I went to him first, and then I would have only applied to Capital.
Right.
So anyways, I just realized, and it wasn't even then, because I started to think about it when I got that letter from Capital. And I said, you know what? I said, that man didn't even know me. He never talked to me. He never went over my grades with me.
Right.
And I started to hear similar stories from other nurses of color. They made it, but still they have someone tell them, oh, you can't, you need this or you need that. Or are you sure you want to be a nurse? It's really hard work. And it's hard work for everybody.
It's hard work for any job.
Yeah, for any degree you want to do, even a nurse's aide, that's hard work. It's still hard work. You know, your roles are different, but for someone to try to gear you towards that direction, and when because I feel like when you're a high school student, when you're a young adult, you're still trying to figure yourself out. So you have someone who doesn't even know you trying to tell you can't make it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the barriers are all throughout nursing. And that's why I fight so hard, because I know how that was. And that was over 30 years ago. And I'm still hearing the same stories today.
Wow.
I'm still hearing about nurses, nursing students, hardworking students, studying hard. And somebody telling them, are you sure you want to do this? Or they're doing good in class and somebody's following them around clinical. Because if I can't fail you out of class, I'm going to fail you out of clinical.
Ooh.
Or you write a paper, so that paper, they give you such a poor grade that even though you had a good average already, it kinks it. So it's like those are the games that they try to play. And, and for me, at first I always thought it was, maybe it's just the students not studying, they're not working hard. But then when I started working with students and I see the time they put in.
Right.
But for me, what was the most upsetting is seeing students who were not students of color getting a different support. They do badly. Instead of saying, are you sure you want to do this? They'll say, you know what, you can make it, you can do it. So when I saw that those differences in support, then that's when I was like, this is a systemic problem.
Right.
And it goes all the way up. It goes all the way up because it's like, it's like you're invited into these programs, but you're not always supported throughout.
Wow.
And for me, even on the doctoral level, it's like you still have to fight to show people that you belong and that you can do the work.
Mm.
Even when it's one thing, again, if I was a student and I'm like, I want to get my doctorate degree, and you're like, are you sure? That's different.
Right.
But if you've been practicing as a nurse, if you have decent grades, you've been working hard, and you have a patient that comes in that nobody thinks is going to make it, and you're on top of that patient, you make sure they get that treatment and care they deserve, and then to have someone tell you, are you sure you want to be a nurse practitioner? Yeah. Are you sure you want to get your doctorate? That's where the problems come in for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have to be in all spaces when it comes to healthcare.
Yeah.
All spaces.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Because even for myself, like when COVID happened, at first, we all were like, that's no big deal. And then we started seeing those numbers spread through Connecticut.
Yeah.
We're like, what's the problem? When it was in China, I was like, okay. And then when it was out in California, I was like, okay. But when they were like Stanford, I was like, they get a little close. But still, and then when I heard the stories of people going in with a cough, people of color going in with a cough, and told, you just have a cold and sent home to spread COVID to your whole family. And you don't even make it back to the hospital alive.
Yeah.
When I heard those stories, I'm telling you, I'm going to be honest, I don't know the last time I sat in a church, but I prayed so hard. I was like, God, please, if I get COVID, at least don't let me be severe. Because I know, because I can just picture, I'm sorry to say this, but I can picture some nurses' faces, some doctors' faces when they see me, and then not be seen as a priority. Right. So I knew if I went into that hospital, I would not come out. I'm sorry, as a nurse, as an educator, that's how I feel. Because I still feel like we're a system where you go in and you're not safe. And it doesn't matter how much money or what degree or any of that. We go in and people see us a certain way. And sometimes they see us like they blame us for our circumstance. All the things that are against us that put us at risk for COVID, they use that and say that's our fault. So I know how our system is. And I just pray and thank God. Let me still, because it's not over yet. But I pray God, I was like, if I go in, I know I'm not going to have anybody advocate for me. And that's a scary place to be. That's a very scary place for us to be in this country that claims that we have so much, so many resources, that we're so diverse, we respect everybody, we have freedom. Yeah. But we still don't have that freedom in our healthcare system.
Well, I don't know whether COVID is a science thing that a science mishap, or it's definitely something man went in there and did something, and boom, something bad happened.
Yes, just terrorized. And it's one thing too, like you notice how they look at diseases if it just affects people of color. You see how they're, not concerned. But when it starts the way that COVID just went through all communities.
Yeah. All nations.
Like crazy.
All nations. Across the globe.
Without this world, yes.
Across
so
the
it's
globe.
Really, yes. And I don't think we'll ever find the truth. I don't know, maybe not in our lifetime, but one day the truth is going to come out. But I think it's going to be years before they say where COVID has come from and how it spread. Because you never heard anything spread so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So, back to the title. You want to discriminate racism within nursing. And that's tough. That's a tough challenge. Do you know how you want to start?
Yeah, so what I do now, like I do, and I even want to just back up a little, because I do groups that we talk about racism in nursing, and I'll talk about that. But I really start to understand racism when I started doing my research into maternal mortality and Black women. That's really where I start to get an understanding of how racism plays out. Because you're Black, I can handle racism, I know how I see it, but I didn't realize how embedded it was in all of our systems. That was a wake-up call for me. Because I want to know why, in the United States, why are Black women dying? Yeah. And that's where it started. And when I started to research it, everything was blaming the woman. Saying that, she started prenatal care late, she doesn't have insurance, she doesn't have access, like all these negative things. She's uneducated, she's poor. I even saw something that said, they're unmarried. Unmarried women are at higher risk for dying during childbirth. They were clumping that together and they said, if you're Black, you're at risk for dying. And I was like, Black? I was like, how does that even make sense? Because there's no genetic component. So, and when I started doing my own research, and these are nursing articles, these are medical articles that are saying these things about Black women. And if you don't look at it with a certain eye, you'll believe that, she's she has a bunch of diseases. They like saying we're obese. They're obese. They're all, high blood pressure, diet. They got all these things going on. But what I learned to find is that if you look at race, you're not really understanding the real problem. You're not really understanding the social issues and things that we go through. And again, it doesn't matter what education you have. And I always use Serena Williams as an example. Because, she's Black, she has money. I mean, she has money that some of us can't even dream of that kind of money. We can't even have a dream about it. And that's what she's living, and she still almost died. And because she was persistent, she got them to listen to her. But I always think about those women who don't have anyone to listen.
Right.
But then I started to really understand what was happening. And then I heard about COVID and how, because I just finished right before COVID was really hitting. I think I defended my research in February, end of February, and then we know March is when COVID just really ramped, and we had started closing things down.
Yeah.
And then George Floyd. And then, Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
So it was one insult after another. That I was like, what? I said, where are nurses in this? We should be doing something to address all these issues. We're in the middle of all of this.
Yeah.
So I felt like we need to do something.
Yeah.
And we need to do something. And then I was approached by two women who wanted to do something. They wanted to do, at the time we only had Zoom. And they were like, we need to do something. We want to talk about this. And so at that time, I was ready. I was I've been silent for too long. Because my whole nursing career, there was not a time I did not experience racism. There was not one time, every job I had to deal with foolishness. Even getting my, as a nurse midwife, had to deal with foolishness. As a nurse, when I first graduated, I actually believed, and this is how naive I was, how innocent I was. I became a nurse. I was about 21. I think I just turned 20. I don't think I was going on 21. And I thought that nurses couldn't be racist. I thought you could be racist at home, but when you came into the hospital, you saw your patient. You saw them as a human. I was that naive until I saw with my own eyes. Patients, especially, I'll never forget this Black woman who was having, I don't remember, she had some type of, I don't know if it was dementia, but anyways, had her laying up in her bed with her hair matted on her head. And at the time, at Hartford Hospital, you could take a patient could go to the hair salon and get a press and curl and come back to the unit. But yet this Black woman had her hair matted on her head. And so I was with a nurse's aide, and we ended up cutting her hair. We had to cut her hair off.
It was that matted?
There was no way to do anything to comb through it. And I was like, if this woman was of sound mind, there was no way this would be acceptable to her.
Oh,
Ended up cutting her hair, washing it, and you could even just see that she felt better. But anyway, that's when I first started to see that we have a problem.
Wow.
And so all these years, you just learn. Because I had to, when I started, the talks that we do is called the Overdue Reckoning Addressing Racism in Nursing. We have, so we did a 5-week session. There were about 100 to 120 participants every week for 5 weeks. That just came every week, wanting to talk about it. And what we did differently was that we centered on the voices of nurses of color. So white nurses couldn't speak about their experience, because you know how you're like in that space, like when something happened to you, it's racist. And if somebody says, I don't know, I know that person, they're really nice, they're not racist. And this is a white person telling you this. So we didn't want that, because I felt like I had to open up and be vulnerable about my own experiences. And we didn't want people to share their experience and then someone try to discount it. Because we know racism exists.
Right.
So that's what we did that was different. And during these sessions, what we learned is like from people who were nursing students all the way into people who've been practicing. One woman was practicing, quite a few women were practiced for 60 years. Can you imagine 60 years? One of the women, her name is Miss Frankie Manning. She's like a mentor to me. When she started practicing, they had colored wards. I only heard about colored wards in the movies. I didn't even think that was a real thing. But she actually worked on those units. And we talked about how things that she dealt with then, we're still dealing with now. And we don't talk about it. So that's when we realized that first, because sometimes you go through things and you think you're the only one.
Right.
And a lot of times, if something happens to you as a Black person or any person of color, and you don't want anyone to know how that situation made you feel. Right. Because you don't want anyone to know that someone has that kind of control over you.
Right.
So we take those feelings in and we keep them in and we don't talk about it. And even for myself, I realized for me to survive, I had to tuck that in and keep moving. But when I did the sessions, I really started to even realize how much I've been traumatized or hurt. How many opportunities I didn't have just because I'm a Black woman, a Black nurse. So what we end up doing, we still have monthly meetings. The first Saturday of the month is really open to everyone. And then the last Saturday, we have only nurses of color. And it's like a network that we build that when somebody has an issue, we all help them problem solve. Somebody needs support, we help them, we help them through it. I'll give you an example. There was a young nurse. She just graduated. She may have been practicing. I know she was practicing less than 6 months, but she was dealing with her person precepting her using the N-word. A lot of just so open because some people are so comfortable. Yeah. So, anyways, she came in. She was telling people what she was going through, and these are people across the country. There are even people who are from Canada that attend meetings. Britain, even South Africa. There was one woman, she was like, I think it's like 3 p.m., I think it was like 11 p.m. where she was. And she was like, she came to every single session. So people from all over the world, but then they were giving this person support. They were like, you don't have to stay there. You need help, we'll tell you how to do it. even some people worked at that company years ago. So I know that company. They're ridiculous. So anyway, she had the courage. She was like, but if I leave, I'm not going to find anything. But we were all like, you don't have to be in that situation. You know, she ended up finding a job in 2 weeks. So she was able to resign. And now she's still at her new job. It's probably been at least, I want to say this was January. So she's going on almost a year of being at this job.
Wow.
So, but we just found that support because we don't always have that.
Right.
So people who either went through it or they know the system, they know how to get through, they made it through, we all share that. So we meet once a month to just kind of talk about that and see where people are. So it's a beast. Racism is a beast. But what I'm learning is that, especially together, we can make changes. Bringing it to light, because a lot of people have never been challenged. So they continue with their behavior, and then to bring it out in the open and say, wait a minute, that's racist. You know, we say it in different ways, but no, that's not right how that person is being treated. And when you shine that light, they don't have any excuses. They can't be like, oh, I didn't know. Oh, you know, that's how we do it for everybody. And then I'm that person that's like, no, you don't, because you didn't do it for this person.
Right.
But yet this person, you want to kick her out the program, you want to tell her to wait a year, or that nurse that's trying on the floor, you want to write her up.
Yeah.
We even had someone who was like being written up by her job. And I was like, you know, what you're being written up for, I can't remember the term that was used, but I said, what you're being written up for, the term that they're using, when I hear that, if I didn't know you, I would think that you was using drugs on your floor. And it made her think, because she thought that she could just, you know, fight it, they're not going to do anything to me. But when she realized that they was trying to set her up.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm like, you're not using drugs, you haven't killed the patient, so why are they using this term to describe you? So that's how we just bring it out in the open, so that if you're experiencing it,
wow, so you guys really do
help
help one another, because like you said, you troubleshoot your problems, and some of you being more experienced in terminology than others, you could identify, like how you did with this young lady. Did she end up keeping?
Yeah, no, she ended up coming back. She ended up fighting up, standing up for herself, and then later just got another job.
Okay.
But at first she realized that, okay, they're trying to play me. And they had people doing worse things to her. But she was the one who was being called out and written up.
And like you said,
she was the one.
Yeah, and like you said, abuse, regardless of where it comes from, whether it's in a job, at home, in friendship, relationship, it doesn't matter. It does take a toll on you emotionally, mentally.
Yes.
And racism, it falls within the same category, because it plays a big part on your mind and your mental, in your confidence, in your self-esteem.
Yes. And that's why I say to me, it's a form of violence.
Yeah.
It's a form of violence. If people tell you what they've gone through, I met someone who was going through her nursing program last semester. They tried to fail her. And I know for every story that I hear, there's nursing students who didn't make it. Spending all these years and then not graduating as a nurse. Just because someone can. And that's really a lot of times what it boils down to. But it's a form of violence. It makes people don't realize when you're experiencing racism and you don't have the support, even if you know how to give a shot, you're gonna have trouble giving a shot. Even if you know the material, you know this is diabetes, this is what I'm supposed to do, if their blood sugar is too high, it makes you question that.
Yeah.
And it's the patient that has to be the one to suffer.
Yeah. Because your confidence
you're going
is
through that.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the game of racism. To break you down, to keep you silent, to make you feel like you can't do things. There was someone that I met who was in nursing for 25 years. Started having problems with a clinical instructor when she went back for her master's degree. And I said, you've been a nurse for 25 years and you can't do a physical assessment? And even she was like, had to think about it. But this person had her in there crying and down on herself. How do you make it as a nurse for 25 years and you don't know how to do an assessment? And she was like, I know how to do an assessment. But it's that intimidation that comes up, and that people want power. So anyways, it's just devastating.
But you know
the
what?
harm that it causes.
But you know what? We block ourselves because, like on my job, and not to say that I'm going through racism, but just like any type of challenges that you face, like I said, in relationships. And I'm learning a different area in my job. And when you're battling something, you personally block yourself. It's like a mental block you place within yourself, not intentionally. And while I was in training, I was confident. And this I'm talking about recently. I'm talking about within the last 3 weeks. This is a 3-week time span. So this is very recently. I was confident. And she was like, okay, you ready to go home. But within that 3 weeks time span, for 3 weeks up until like now, something happened. Something happened. And it's up to me to pull myself together, meditate, for first and foremost, meditate to my Lord, to our God, and say, look, help me help myself. Give me the guidance that I need. Then, once I do that, then start working on me, getting that mental block out of my head, because I can do that, what they need me to do, what I went back for training on, but just second guessing myself because of what I'm going through. And normally I'm the type of person, I try not to mix home with work because it doesn't work.
It can wear you down.
Yeah, so just like your friend, she knew how to, for 25 years, you can't tell me she did not know how to do an assessment, but that mental block in your head, it's something, that devil, Satan. Oh my God.
But it's about also trusting yourself.
Yes.
And that's the part. Yes, because I can even tell you for myself, and this is this will get my experience. I was finishing my dissertation, and I could see the finish line. But I had someone that was supposed to be supporting me, questioning how I was doing certain things. Even once when there was something that all the women in my study said, and had a nerve to say to me, oh, you can't say that unless you talk to white women. I'm like, why would I talk to white women about a black woman's experience? Because that's what my study focused on. But anyway, I was doubting myself. I almost was like, you know what? Again, I've been already in the program for 6 or 7 years. I was ready to say, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm not dealing with that person anymore. And then I came home and I was like, you worked hard. You did all this stuff. And then it was a friend who said to me, she was like, Lucinda, you've been working with these women, their stories for over a year. You know these women. You know, you're giving them, you're respecting them. You're honoring what they said. And I even went to them and said, this is what I found in my study. I want to make sure I'm representing you. They all said yes. But I was still questioning myself because they put that doubt in your head. But when my friends say, you know those black women better than she knows those black women. So you're going to let her really dictate what you're doing. When she said that to me, it was like I had a new power. So I was like, I had to trust myself. I was like, she was right. I knew these black women. If they gave me the okay, nobody else was going to stop me. And they gave me the okay. So with that, I went back with the force. And I was like, I'm going to finish up. I'm going to get this over and done with. The last thing was even doing my defense. That it was going to be before spring break or after spring break. She was pushing for after spring break. But I was like, in the past, I would have said, okay, I'll do it after spring break. But I decided, you know what? I'm ready. And she was like, well, if you can get everyone together, I got everybody together. I was hunting them down. I had 5 people. They had to be there. But I just saying, like, I had a certain confidence. I had to trust myself.
Yeah.
And you know what? I defended. Not even 2 weeks later, if I would have waited till spring break, COVID hit. Everything was shut down. So I would have been up there for another year. So I just say that sometimes we have that doubt, but we have to keep it moving.
Yep.
And someone even said to me, what's the worst that could happen? And I always, now when I'm moving forward, I always think about that. What's the worst that can happen? Or they could be mad. Maybe they don't want me to work here anymore. I'll find another job. But I'm not going to stay where someone's not letting me work to my full potential.
Yeah.
I'm like, not anymore. And nobody's letting me doubt myself or causing me to doubt myself. Because when you're surrounded by those people, then that's a problem. Right. And sometimes as, women of color, sometimes we get afraid and we don't want to speak up and advocate for ourselves. But we have to realize if we don't do it, nobody else is going to do it.
Right.
So we just have to trust myself. And I was like, if I fail, I'm going to get back up and just try my best the next time. I'll reevaluate what happened, but I'm going to come back. Because my thing is that I've seen people do less than me and move forward.
Yeah.
And I'm here working hard. I'm not letting that happen anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it's difficult. It's easy to say, and I'm not saying it was a process for me, but it's almost like when you realize your superpower and you tap into that, nobody can stop you. And I'm not saying everything is going to be perfect, but at least I know if I fall, when I get up, I'm going to keep doing better. If I fall 2 times, I'm still going to get up and keep doing better. And just one thing I want to just make sure I say is that I found whatever direction I'm going in, when you have people who love and care about you, that's all that matters.
Oh, absolutely.
And they will accept, I find they accept you how you come. And those are your true friends. Those are the people who really care about you.
Absolutely. Now you recently...
And that's where it gets strength.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. You recently had a virtual nursing meeting on September the 23rd.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah. What was that topic about? Because I missed that. I really wanted to attend.
Oh, okay. We have the video. So I'll send you the link because we have a video of the program.
Okay, great.
Yes. So we call it Decolonizing Nursing. It's really to take down what people think. Like people think, for example, nursing's only Florence Nightingale. There were a lot of nurses of color that contributed to nursing, and this is part of the work that I do too. Because when I was in school, in nursing school, I didn't know about Lady Harriet Tubman or Sojourner Truth. I didn't know about Susie King. All these nurses that contributed, even Jackie Robinson's wife, Raquel Robinson. She actually lives in I believe she lives in Greenwich, Connecticut. She was a nurse, a psychiatric nurse.
Oh, wow.
And at nursing school, I didn't see any of that. I didn't see anybody that looked like me.
Nor pictures, nor photos, nor nothing.
Not even not even one sentence in my textbook. So we realized we're here. We've been here. We've been taking care of our communities. And when nursing programs started, and you could look at any history book, when nursing started, and I'm going to use black people, I'm going to use black people, but this is all true in other communities. And Latino communities and indigenous communities, when nursing programs were being established, we were told we weren't smart enough. We were already taking care of delivering babies. We were delivering babies, we were taking care of the sick. There were things that we took over through Middle Passage, from slavery to what we call now the United States. That we were already practicing nursing. Yeah. And they said we couldn't be nurses. And we're still seeing it's said a different way, but it's still the same thing that's being said. They have certain things they call standards. And so if you get a high score in your SATs, then you could be a nurse, which is not true. I'm not going to cuss, because I would cuss and tell you how I really feel about people saying that. Mm. But what I wanted to say is that we have all those barriers. So this program was called Decolonizing Nursing to say, look, we have these barriers, we've made it, we're here. There are people who are contributing to nursing, people of color who are contributing to nursing, who are doing the work. You know, often people pretend like we don't exist, but we're here, we're educating students, we're doing our own research, but we're showing that we can contribute. So this panel was 7 nurse scholars of color. And this is the first time I was ever on a panel where everyone was a person of color. We all had different areas that we looked at. Like someone talked about the indigenous, like truth and reconciliation. Mm-hmm. I talked about Black maternal health. Someone else just talked about having nursing figures in our nursing curriculum. Someone else was talking about Latino nurses who were contributing but were ignored. And that researcher actually read names of people he was from Colombia, of nurses who contributed and made significant change in their communities. He actually honored them. And then we had someone talking about vaccine hesitancy, and someone just talking about the challenges that students of color face when they're in programs. So we all had different areas where we talked about how, this is what the problem is, and we talked about some solutions. Even for my work, I was like, for Black women, childbirth has always been valued. Mm-hmm. It's always been an important part of our communities, even though the images on television don't always show that. But even during slavery, we were empowered because that was something that we had control over. Even though we didn't even know where our babies were going to go, we still had control. Mm. But when we transitioned to the hospital, a lot of our freedoms, a lot of our voice was taken away, and we have high maternal mortality rates to show that. But my thing was that this is myth that we don't have control over our body, that we don't know if we're feeling pain. And when we're feeling pain, we exaggerate it. And that came from slavery, so that we could have our babies and go back to work, so that we could have our babies and somebody take them. So that started way back in slavery. But you still hear people going home who had a C-section, they're less likely to get proper pain medication. They give them ibuprofen when they need Percocet. All because we don't know, we can't figure out, or we're drug addicts. We're seeking, not that we just had major surgery, but that we're seeking drugs. So my thing was just that if a woman says she's in pain, she's in pain.
Right.
If she says something's wrong, something is wrong. Take a minute and do your work, do your job, and evaluate her. So that was and that's part of what I feel like is a solution, is that we have to acknowledge and give power back to the women. But everyone talked about in their area what we need to do. And so anyway, that's what the presentation, focused on. Just kind of like letting people know we're here. Even one time during the presentation, I was like, look at us, we're here. Use our research to address issues that impact our community. Use our research to improve your nursing care. So that's what, and I'm starting to get all passionate about it.
Yeah.
When I think about it, that we have to have a presentation to tell people this.
Yeah.
You should know this already. If you're a nurse, you should know that there's nurses of color who are doing the right thing, who are working hard, who are providing good care, who are developing things that are improving and saving patients' lives. But that was our focus of just decolonizing nursing, and we know it's a beast because people have been doing the same thing for so many years. So we know that it's going to be a challenge, but I feel like together we can just keep knocking down those barriers.
Yeah, absolutely. Will you have more virtual meetings like that in the future?
Yes. We're going to continue. So like I do the overdue reckoning. We're more like the presentation was a little more formal. We're going to have, so I still do those meetings every month, but we also will continue to do, because people want us to do a part 2. We had over 300 people attend.
Oh, wow.
And yes. And we had people who, again, all over the world saying that they're sharing our presentation. They want more. They want us to be able, because there were 7 of us, so we only had like 10 minutes each, that they want us to be able to do it and have more time. So we got a lot of positive feedback, so we'll be doing that. And also, and I meant to mention this earlier, out of overdue, we were hearing people's stories about their nursing experience. So I'm actually working on a documentary where we have nurses of color and all different races, ethnicities talking about their experience, primarily their experience with racism, but what they use to make it through so they could become a nurse or provide care to the communities they want. So you'll see, we did something at UMass last Monday where we showed 3 interviews and we had discussions around them. And we're going to continue. We interviewed about 40 nurses. And so we're in the process of still editing and putting it together. But we're going to be sharing their experience again so that people can see. Like we have a Japanese nurse shared her experience. We have African American. We have people from the Caribbean sharing their stories. Indigenous, Latina nurses. So we have a wide range of nurses sharing their experiences. We even have a new nurse who was DACA, who shared her experience, and why she went into nursing.
Wow.
So we're gonna keep doing presentations, and when I have things coming up, though, I will advertise.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'll see more from me and from the group that I work with.
Awesome. I will continue to follow you. I know you're on Facebook. Are you also on Instagram and also on Twitter?
Yes, I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I have to keep my Instagram account. I have to keep it up because social media takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I'm on Facebook. I was like, I need to hire someone to help me. I'm like, because it's like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Twitter has really been. I used to be afraid of Twitter. Now I love Twitter. But I am on Instagram too. So I'm on all platforms, but I just have to keep up my Instagram a little bit more. I'm trying.
Okay.
I was trying for midwifery week.
So if anyone if any one of my listeners want to follow you, how would they follow you on your social media so that I can upload it?
Yes, if they Google me, just Google Lucinda Canty, and you'll see I'm just like Lucinda Canty, PhD on Twitter, on Facebook, just Lucinda Canty, on Instagram, I'm Lucinda Midwife, and on LinkedIn, I'm on all platforms.
Okay.
And you can send me a message through each one.
Okay. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. I just got a second wind.
Yeah, I see.
Now I'm going to go run around the block a couple times.
To release more energy. Well, thank you. This was very eye-opening. And you're so passionate about your field, so I greatly appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
And
thank you so much.
And you have an awesome day and an awesome evening. And this is Crystal Rene from the 90 Day Podcast. And my guest was Lucinda. And Lucinda, would you like to say anything before we exit?
Yeah, I just want to say to those of you who are interested in nursing and midwifery, don't let anyone tell you you can't do it. If you're a woman who's pregnant, you have the right to safe care. And just know there's an army of women who are out here that want to make sure you have a safe childbirth, that you have the information and education you need, that we just have to support each other. We have to keep supporting each other.
Okay. Well, this is Crystal Rene. Like I always say, think positive and be positive. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, my friend.